Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to reverse engineer literally the ultimate machine, life itself. We're taking anatomy, botany, and chemistry, and we're connecting them all together into one beautifully unified, flawlessly operating engine. You know, when you see how all these systems lock together, biology completely stops being a boring list of isolated facts, and it starts looking like an absolute masterpiece of engineering.
We are embarking on a power-packed, one-shot journey through the absolute most critical systems of physiology. As our source material beautifully states, I'll explain these points the way they connect in your mind so you actually remember them. We're definitely going to be moving at lightning speed here, but don't worry, we're making sure every single piece clicks together perfectly.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We're covering breath, blood, and lymph, plant physiology, a 60-second digestion challenge, the microbial world, human reproduction, and finally, the unified engine. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. Breath, blood, and lymph. Let's dive right into the essential fuel and transport systems that power your body minute by minute.
Take a deep breath. Seriously, that air just made a totally fascinating journey. It enters your nostrils, gets warmed up and filtered, and travels down the trachea. And that trachea is brilliantly kept open by rigid C-shaped cartilage rings, so it literally never collapses under pressure. From there, the air branches out into the bronchi, then the bronchioles, before finally arriving at the alveoli. Those are the microscopic air sacs where the actual magic of gas exchange happens, all through simple diffusion.
Now, what's really wild is how we actually move that air. Breathing in, inspiration, is entirely active work. Your diaphragm actively contracts and flattens downward to pull that air in. But normal expiration, that's simply a passive process. The diaphragm relaxes, and the elastic fibers in your lungs smoothly recoil to push the air right back out. No effort required.
Okay, try exhaling as hard as you humanly can. Go ahead. Well, here's a crazy fact. You still didn't empty your lungs. A massive residual volume of roughly 1.5 liters of air remains permanently trapped inside there. It's a highly critical design feature, ensuring those delicate alveoli never completely collapse on themselves. Once that oxygen diffuses into your blood, it heads straight for the heart. Notice how the heart's left ventricle features the absolute thickest myocardium, or muscle wall. That's because it has the massive, heavy-lifting job of pumping all that freshly oxygen-rich blood system-wide to every single tissue in your body. The little cargo ships actually carrying this oxygen are your red blood cells. They don't even have a nucleus, just to maximize the amount of oxygen-carrying hemoglobin they can hold. Their lifespan is about 120 days. And incredibly, to keep this supply chain running, your bone marrow forms and your body destroys 2 to 3 million of these cells every single second. Yes, millions, every second.
But think about this. What happens to the fluid that inevitably leaks out of those high-pressure capillaries into your tissues? It doesn't just sit there pooling up. It gets carefully collected by the lymphatic system. This network acts like a crucial one-way filter street, utilizing valves to return 2 to 3 liters of interstitial fluid, which we now call lymph, daily, right back into your venous return via the thoracic duct.
Moving right along to Section 2, Plant Physiology. Let's see how nature perfectly mirrors this incredible design in the plant kingdom. Now, plants obviously need to transport water and nutrients just like we do, but they don't have a muscular pumping heart. So what do? They rely on sheer physics. They brilliantly utilize the forces of adhesion, which is water sticking to the xylem walls, and cohesion tension, creating a transpiration pull directly from the leaves. That's exactly what draws water upward from microscopic root hairs deep in the soil all the way up to the highest canopy. And this brings us to a striking synthesis between biological kingdoms, right down to the molecular level. Our blood's oxygen carrier, hemoglobin, is built around a heavy core of iron. Meanwhile, plant chlorophyll, the stuff that captures light to create that oxygen, utilizes a nearly identical structure, but with a core of magnesium. It's just this beautiful mirror image symmetry.
Section 3, 60-second digestion recap. To keep any biological engine running, we need fuel, and we need to process it fast.
The clock is ticking, let's go. Fuel enters the mouth where ptyalin immediately starts breaking down starches. Bam! It hits the stomach, where acid drops to a blistering pH of 1.5 to activate pepsin. This acidic mix drops into the duodenum, triggering secretin release and activating small intestine zymergens, those are inactive enzymes, for mass nutrient extraction. Meanwhile, the liver is banking excess glucose, and down in the colon, symbiotic bacteria are busy synthesizing vitamin K. And done! Fuel processed.
Section 4.
The microbial world. Speaking of those helpful bacteria in our colon, let's zoom in on the Monera kingdom.
Now, these prokaryotic organisms are built completely differently from ourselves. They actually lack a true membrane-bound nucleus. Instead, their DNA is just hanging out in a nucleoid region. But don't underestimate them. They come heavily equipped for survival. They often feature a tough, rigid peptidoglycan cell wall, and they use whip-like tails called flagella to swim around, plus tiny appendages called pili to attach to surfaces or literally trade DNA with one another.
A fundamental way we categorize these microscopic workers in the lab is the Gram stain. Gram-positive bacteria, like Staphylococcus aureus, have a super thick cell wall and they stain a deep purple. On the flip side, Gram-negative bacteria, like the E. coli in our gut, have an outer membrane loaded with LPS, a complex sugar lipid molecule, and they stain a distinct pink.
Up next, Section 5, Human Reproduction. Let's look at the ultimate feature of life's machinery, ensuring the continuity of the entire system.
The female menstrual cycle is essentially a perfectly timed chemical symphony, stepping through 4 precise phases. It kicks off with the menstrual phase as progesterone levels fall. Then, the proliferative phase builds up the endometrium using estrogen. This all climaxes with a massive surge of LH, or luteinizing hormone, which reliably triggers ovulation right around day 14. Finally, the secretory phase prepares everything for potential implantation.
Meanwhile, male spermatogenesis operates in a totally different way. Once it starts at puberty, it runs as a continuous, extremely high-efficiency production line inside the seminiferous tubules. Through the elegant process of meiosis, a single primary spermatocyte is efficiently converted into 4 highly specialized motile spermatozoa.
Finally, Section 6, the unified engine. Let's step back and look at the magnificent, interconnected schematic we've just mapped out across all these systems.
Think about how beautifully this all synchronizes together. The Bohr effect dictates that our blood specifically unloads oxygen right in response to the CO2 our tissues produce. Plant stomata then capture that exact CO2 we exhale to fuel their photosynthesis. Down in the soil, plant root absorption operates on the exact same basic principles of osmosis and pressure as our own capillary fluid exchange. And those tiny microbes? They're busy synthesizing the very vitamins our digestion fundamentally requires to function.
And this brilliantly brings us back to our core thesis for today. Anatomy, chemistry, botany, they are not isolated textbook chapters. Oxygen flows into human alveoli, travels via hemoglobin, gets unloaded by the Bohr effect, turns into CO2, gets exhaled, gets pulled right into plant stomata, and is cycled straight back into oxygen. It's all operating together as one single, flawless engine of life.
Which leaves us with one pretty provocative thought to ponder as you continue exploring these fascinating topics. If all of nature operates as one finely tuned, totally interconnected engine, where every single breath and every microscopic cell plays a vital role, what part will you play in keeping it running? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep your curiosity alive, and we'll see you in the next one.